Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Rogue Eye Entertainment Podcast. My name is Schlerf, and on today's episode, we are going to be reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I literally just got out of my theater from watching Sonic 3 Thursday night preview day, and I wanted to hop right on the mic and talk about it with you guys because this has probably been one of my most anticipated movies of the year so far, and it's coming right at the end of the year, of course, but definitely top five in my most anticipated movies this year. Um, I guess I'll just jump right into it just to say there's not going to be many spoilers here. Towards the end, I'll give a spoiler warning if we're going to talk about the ending and the post-credit scenes. I'll talk about that at the end. And I'm not even well versed in like the Sonic lore. I'll explain my kind of connection to Sonic, but I'm not super versed in the Sonic lore. But I'll just talk a little bit about that post-credit scene and what happened in it and what it sets up for Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which has already been confirmed for a 2027 release. So 3 years away or almost 2 years away. So we can sit tight for that. But yeah, just jumping right into it. My connection to Sonic is that I played the Sonic games when I was a kid. I obviously played Mario and Sonic, the Olympic games, like everyone else did. But I did play the Sonic games when I was a kid, a couple of them when I was really young. I always liked Sonic, always liked Shadow. And that was a long time ago, though. I'm not, like I said, I'm not well versed in the lore. I don't still play the games. I don't closely follow them. I'm not like a massive super fan. I won't claim to be that at all. But a couple of years ago, I think this is last year, I watched the first two Sonic movies for the first time because I was kind of starting to get back into movies again. There were some of the movies that were on my list, and I just loved them. The first one I thought was really solid, and the second one I thought was great. I thought it improved on everything from the first one, and I just fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with the action, the way it looks. It's just this trilogy in general, and I was super excited this year when I saw the started seeing the promotion and the marketing for the third movie, seeing they're bringing in Shadow, and I was just super excited for this movie in general, and it delivered big time. I loved this movie, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd or a 9 out of 10. It's a high on the high end of that too. I mean, for me, it's hard to give a movie like this 5 stars just because it's so silly and goofy and it's a kids movie. But if any one of these kind of movies is going to be a 5 star, it's this one. I think it was the best movie out of the trilogy, and I'd say probably my first thought to say, and the reason this movie is just elevated so much is because of Shadow. And I probably would have understood if fans going into this were concerned, super fans, not fans like me on a casual level, but bigger fans of the Sonic games and all that kind of media were kind of concerned about them bringing Shadow in and worried they were gonna, I don't know, ruin him, I guess. And a lot of people were skeptical of the Keanu Reeves casting as his voice actor, just because I think a lot of people were saying that they were just trying to get a big name and he wouldn't fit Sonic the right way, or sorry, Shadow the right way, and people were kind of skeptical about it, but Keanu crushed it, man. He just crushed it. I can't believe this shows how big this franchise has gotten. The fact that they were able to convince Keanu Reeves to voice Shadow the Hedgehog, that is literally absurd. But I loved his portrayal of Shadow. I thought just past the voice acting from him, Shadow just had like I have no other way to describe it from the fact that Shadow just had an unbelievable amount of aura. Like his aura from minute one that he showed up on the screen to the last scene is just unbelievable. The way they animated him, the way they kind of progressed him throughout the movie, and this isn't a spoiler to say, but they show his backstory, which I know is a big part of what the fans were looking for in this movie is to really focus on Shadow's backstory and how tragic it is. And they really did focus on that. They kind of showed it throughout with flashbacks throughout the movie. And again, even though this has been in the trailers, I'm not going to go into any detail of what that backstory is, but it's heartbreaking and it makes you genuinely like feel sympathetic to this hedgehog, this crazy, animated character. It makes you really feel connected to them and feel like you want to root for him, even if he is the villain in this movie, that he is the antagonist in this movie. So I loved how Keanu was able to portray not only like the aura moments of Shadow, like the tough, crazy, intense action moments of Shadow, but also to portray the emotional moments and his relationship with this girl that he met when he was, first coming on Earth. So I think that I think he ended up being a perfect choice for this. And I think if he ever does return in future films, then, and I'm just going to leave that open-ended because I don't want to spoil the movie, but if that ever does happen, I think he'd be great to return again. And I think all the skeptics that were questioning him as Shadow, I think all the concerns should be quelled. I mean, again, I am not this huge Shadow fan. Maybe he was a terrible adaptation, but I don't think so. I thought he was awesome as Shadow. There were so many. I mean, again, these in the trailer, but one of the opening scenes of the movie is when they first interact with Shadow, and he's in, I believe it was Tokyo, and the Sonic team kind of fights him, and he starts off just regular fighting, teleporting all that, and then he gets on his bike and flips the gun. Again, this is in the trailer. And it's just like so cool. Like it is no business being as cool as it is, but it is, and it can transport somebody like me who's a nerd in his own right, but I'm not a kid. Most people in my theater were kids. There was a good mix actually, but most people they appeal for this movie supposed to be kids, but it's just so cool. Some of these scenes with Shadow, it's just like it kind of transports you back to when you were a kid and playing these games and playing as Shadow and playing as Sonic. So that was just really cool just to see Shadow on the big screen. And again, I think Keanu crushed it. I think they did a great job with him, and I'd love it if he came back again. And I'm not gonna leave it open ended, but I'd love if he would come back again. And I was really happy with how they portrayed him in this movie. And that's probably my number one positive thing in this movie. Pretty much all my, to be honest, I don't have a bad thing to say about this movie. Like I don't, this sometimes there'll be movies like this where they're like fun, but there's a part of it where I'm just like, that doesn't elevate it to a 5 star. But this movie just is so much fun. It has heart. It's fun. The action is great. Everything about it, the acting is just so good. And that's one of my other big pros of the movie is Jim Carrey dominates this role. I mean, and we been knew this. I mean, we knew from the first two movies that Jim Carrey is just hilarious in this role, and the fact that he keeps coming back for this franchise when he's technically retired as an actor is just like it's a blessing to even be able to see him on the screen. At this point in my life, I feel like so lucky to see an actor like him on the screen, right? At in 2024, or who knows how many. This could be his last movie. Like you never know at this point because he is technically retired, and he just like they let him do whatever he wants in this role. Like you can just tell that he is just having the best time of his life, and everyone on set must have been having the best time of their lives watching him do this. And I was having the best time of my time watching him on the screen. I mean, the way he does robotic and the comedy and all of that is just like there's so many scenes in this movie. And I said in my letterbox review, but and I'll put that in the description if you want to read that. It's gonna be similar to what I if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, it'll be similar to what I say in this review. But I don't think every single time he came on screen, I was laughing. Even in scenes that weren't supposed to be comedic and scenes that were, supposed to be emotional or anything like action scenes. Every time he came on screen, I was just like chuckling because there's just so many. I mean, again, I don't want to spoil the movies. I'm not going to say them, but there's so many lines in this movie that he has where like my entire theater, including me and the friend I went with, were just dying laughing because Jim Carrey, he's a comedic legend, and it doesn't surprise me, but he just like dominates this role. Like he is this movie. Like I know I just talked about Shadow and how he's the movie, and Sonic is just amazing in this movie as well, and Tails and Knuckles and Tom and Maddie, James Marsden and his wife. Like everyone in this movie is hilarious. Christopher Ritter is in this movie too. Everyone in this movie is great for their roles, but like Jim Carrey is just on another level of comedy and everything to do with this role. Like some of the scenes are just with him are just so ridiculous, and I mean like you think to a point at this is the third movie of Jim Carrey in this role, and he's also become more like the video. I've seen online that people have said he's become more like the video game character of Eggman compared to Robotnik, but they've said he's became more like Eggman as the movies have went on. And I think that was intentional. I think that's probably what they're planning on doing the whole way, but. It's just a luxury that they even got him to come back for three movies. I mean, Jim Carrey's been three Sonic movies, and how many years? Like a decade, half a decade to a decade. Like I just love it. I love watching him in any movie, but in this role, he's just so good. He knocks at the park. He steals every scene he's in. Interacting with the hedgehogs and Knuckles and Tails and everyone in this movie is just so I love it. I love him in this role. And again, it was just a blessing to watch him again on the screen and hopefully not for the last time. And I could watch him do 20 of these movies. Like I just think he kills and he knocks out the park. And I he was one of the best parts of the movie. There is a joke in this movie. Should I say it? It's spoiler. I want people to experience it in the movie, but all right, I'll say just skip like 30 seconds if you haven't seen the movie. But there is a line in this movie Nah, I can't say it. It's honestly the funny thing about this joke is that it's a bit like in 2024, it's shocking they put this in in a movie alone, but let alone a kids movie. So I'm not even gonna say it because I don't want to start anything, but like you'll probably know it if you watch the movie what I'm talking about, and if you don't, feel free to DM me on Instagram or something or Twitter or put in the comments. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. But he just has this one line in this movie, and I'll just say it's in the room where there's gravity issues. That's all I'll say, and it's directed at a certain general in this movie. And it is like I first off just laughed incredibly, and then I was thinking like. How in the world they get this line in a kids movie? And there's a lot of things they let him do in this movie that I'm like, how is he being alive? Only Jim Carrey can do this stuff. Like any other comedic actor who's playing this role, he was never going to be allowed to do these kind of things. There's so many scenes in this movie, and again, it's in the trailer, but he plays two roles in this movie. He plays Robotnik, but then Gerald Robotnik, which is like his grandpa, I guess, and it's also a big character from the lore apparently, and he has a big role in this movie. And the dynamic between the two of them is seamless. I mean, if you didn't know Jim Carrey is playing both roles, you wouldn't think he's playing both roles because they do something in this movie where like they're literally right next to each other and they're interacting and it's hilarious. And I'm not gonna spoil it. There's a really funny scene too when they first meet. Kind of a funny moment about them, about the two Jim Carrey playing the two actors or the two characters, and you can see I'm trying to tiptoe around spoilers. Please go see this movie. Like I know I've said I loved it and all that. I'm gonna keep saying how much I love it, but please go see this movie. It's so much fun. Go see it with your friends, with your family, with your if you have kids. Like go see it with the family because it's such a family fun movie. And I want to watch this movie multiple more times on the big screen. I probably will. But anyway, just to wrap up the Jim Carrey thing, they let him do literally absolutely anything he wants in this movie, and it's hilarious. There's so many scenes I can't believe that I can't believe my eyes, but I'm mesmerized by his performance, and yeah, I'm so glad that he was back for another movie, and I really hope he somehow plays this role again. Again, leaving you open for spoilers, but yeah. Besides from just the main like performances, like the acting of it, I do think that this movie just elevated everything from the previous two. Like I said, I think this trilogy builds on each one. It's like the first one, and I think that's how the ratings would go for me too. Like I think like three is better than two, two is better than one, but one's still really good. So I think like one starts off, you introduce the character, introduce this family bond. He lands on Earth, he duels with Robotnik, but that's it. Like no Knuckles, no Tails, no Shadow, no whatever. Like just he's the one. He fights off Robotnik. It's fun. I give it a 4 star to five. It's a good movie. And then the second one elevates it because at the end of the first, they bring in Tails. They bring in him fighting Knuckles. They bring in a lot of stuff from the lore of the games, like the what's it called? The Master Emerald, like that at the end of the movie, and Robotnik starting to become more comic accurate, starting to become more accurate to the games, and they elevate it again because they add those characters. The scale is bigger. We're kind of put back in this world that we've already been established. Instead of the origin story, it's now like the family's all together and Robotnik's back and Sonic is with Tails and then Knuckles comes in and they join them. So like that second movie. And they elevate even more for this one because all those characters, once we jump to this movie, the entire family's together. Like Maddie, Tom, Sonic, Knuckles, Tails are all together being in this movie. And obviously Robotnik comes back. That's in the trailer. We bring in a new character who's his grandpa, who honestly just elevates that role even more, just being having two Robotniks. And they have they have his assistant Stone in the movie. They introduce more gun members. They obviously introduce one of the biggest characters, probably the most popular character in the Sonic franchise in Shadow. And that's how they just elevate this even more than the first two. And sometimes making movies larger scale and trying to kind of finish out a trilogy on a bang can become a bad thing. Trying to think of an example of what that would be, but a lot of franchises do that where they kind of try to go Rise of Skywalker is an example of that, but it doesn't matter. But they try to go higher and higher with every movie, and then try to end it on a bang, go like super amount of characters in the third one. But the thing about this franchise is that there's so much lore and so many stories to tell, and so much heart and so many new characters to bring in that they don't need to go all in this movie. They did. This scale is massive in this movie, but and just with like kind of the plot of the movie, which isn't totally in the trailer, so I'm not gonna go too far into it, but they can continue to make these movies and not have to go like Sonic 3, we're going out with a bang, and if you don't get another movie, you know, this is we left it all on the table. Like, no, they didn't do that. They still left room for more stories. They still left room for more of the family dynamic, where more, just more things they can do with this franchise. They left it open for that while still making this movie the best it could be. And I just love that. Again, like same thing with the first two Sonic movies. Like these movies aren't technically technically sound. Like they aren't the most technically amazing movies. Like they're not doing some incredible storytelling or some like crazy cinematography or like Oscar performances by actors. Like no, but it's just like it's perfect for what it is. And for those of you who don't know me, like that's how I grade my movies is that I don't grade I do a bit of both, but I kind of try to grade them on a scale of like how good is this movie to what it could be, like to what the perfect Sonic 3 movie can be? How good is it to that scale? And so, like, if you look at my list for 2024, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Again, my letterbox will be in the, I think it's in the description. If it's not, I'll make sure to add it. If I don't, someone remind me. But, sorry, real quick. So, like, my 2024 movies list, I've seen 65 movies. I'll see a couple more before the year's over. But people will probably be like, I have Sonic 3 at ninth right now. That's above movies like The Substance, Gladiator 2. And by the way, I'm just real quick, I'm gonna do a whole like award season video towards the end of the year or at the beginning of next year, like when award seasons are heating up. So don't worry about, I'll go through all these movies later. But ahead of Substance, Gladiator 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, We Live in Time, Juror number 2, Twister, Saturday Night, like The Apprentice, Transformers 1, Different Man, like all these movies that are like I will give you that they were 1,000,000% more technically sound than Sonic 3, but Sonic 3 is just perfect. And I say I should say near perfect because it's not a 5 star, but like is so perfect for what it is. It does so much for what this franchise could be and for what a video game adaptation should be. And I'm glad this year has been really fun for video game adaptations. And I'm sure I'm going to miss some, but just the ones that come to my mind are Arcane, Fallout, and Sonic. And I'm just glad, I'm happy for Sonic fans that, they get Sonic diehard fans, they get to experience a movie like this that is so good for like compared to the games and adapting that lore and bringing these characters to screen, especially Shadow. I'm just happy for the fans that they can experience this. And I just think this movie does such a good job of just being it's not, people probably call this like a popcorn movie where it's like, it's not good, but just like you sit back and you have a fun time and it's a 3 star or whatever. But I disagree. I think it's just, it can be a really fun movie while still being a really good movie. And it does great with its characters. It works so well with each of the characters. And I know I don't like, I guess I haven't talked much about just Sonic himself in this movie, but it's just like, Ben Schwartz, who's the voice actor, just like kills the role of Sonic with it's interesting because he's a comedian. He's mostly known for comedy roles, and obviously the character of Sonic in this trilogy is very much based on comedy. But there's a lot of scenes in this movie specifically which are very like emotional and have a lot of emotional weight to them, like a lot of Sonic and Shadow's interaction, especially towards the end. And Schwartz still like kills it. Like he still does a great job delivering these lines, and I think every single one of these voice actors, Ben Schwartz, Colleen O'Shaughnessy, Idris Elba, Keanu Reeves, Jim Carrey, not a voice actor but an actor, James Marsden, and I'm forgetting the wife's name, her actor's name, Tika Sumpter, like all these people. I mean, Jim Carrey, like I said, like all these people are just perfect for the roles, and when you have a movie that kills its casting, especially in voice acting, but also just in general, like with Jim Carrey and the actual live action characters in these films, that is going to already elevate the movie so much. And that's what they do in this movie, especially with Sonic. I think Ben Schwartz is just awesome in this role. I love him in this role. I think he does great at voicing Sonic. And I'm sure that everyone who's a Sonic fan would agree with me as well when I say this. So, I'm not like making a hot take or anything here, but yeah, this is one of those movies where like no one's gonna critique it, I'm sure, but people are gonna say, how can you have this? And by the way, I'm not saying like Sonic is like an Oscar contender or anything. Like my list is not my Oscar list. I'll give you guys my Oscars list at the end of the year, but it's not in there. Like the Substance Gladiator 2 will be above that in the Oscars intention. Like same as Deadpool and Wolverine won't be there, and Alien Romulus won't be there. Like it's the same concept. But I just want to make that clear. But the way I see it is that it's one of the better movies of the year because it just does exactly what it needs to do with its characters, with its comedy, with its action, with its drama, with its tense scenes and its scale. And every single part of it just does so well for what it is. It just it they I'm shaking the camera, sorry. It just to me, excuse me, just knocks it out of the park with every single aspect of it. And it's just not one of those movies that I think can get to a 5 star. And I'm sure if you wouldn't give it a 5 star, I totally would understand. But to me, it's not one of those movies that gets to a 5 star. I don't know what these movies could do to get to a 5 star, just because of what they are. But for what it is, mixed with the idea of just being a good movie, it's clearly a 4.5 out of 5. And like I said, go see this movie. It's so much fun. It's such a fun time. I was laughing. My theater was laughing the whole time. And when I get into spoilers, I'll talk about this more, but there were a lot of, reveals in this movie and jokes in this movie and moments with Shadow that there were kids in my theater like jumping up and down and screaming at moments of this movie. And that's just so wholesome. That's why we do it. That is what movies are for. And I don't want to bring it to a comic book thing because this isn't a review of anything comic book related, but like this is what these kind of movies are about. And it's what every movie is about, but like these characters mean a lot to a lot of people. And to see kids that are, I mean, these kids are got to be 6 or 7 years old that can go to a movie theater. We're keeping movie theaters alive. And on opening night, go see a movie like this, be able to stand up and cheer and laugh and cry. I love it. That made me just like, it made my week because I just think that's so wholesome and is again is going to keep it's the reason these movies are being made is for reactions like that for people like that and I hope for people like me too. And that's just something that I'm gonna keep pushing because I think this movie is so much fun for any age, from someone my age or a kid or someone, an adult. Like it's just so much fun. It's go see this movie. It's so much fun. And I don't know if I have anything else to say about the movie technically. I mean, just everything I've said has just amazing. I mean, the third act in general, like with again, I basically can't say anything about the third act without going into spoilers because like a lot of it is not the trailer, which I think is awesome by the way. Like that fact that none of it was really in the trailer is awesome. But the third act of this movie is just bonkers. Like everything that's going on, it's mostly just action, but like it's bonkers. There's good character moments. There's good character designs, good action, good. Just everything about it is just beautiful. It's just so amazing. I want to watch this movie again in the theaters as quick as I can. So real quick, that'll do it for my review. Again, 4.5 out of 5. Go see this movie. It's amazing. One of my favorite movies of the year. I'm saying so far, but the movie year's almost over, but so far. Real quick, this is just a quick spoiler warning. There'll be timestamps so you guys can skip around. You'll know when the spoiler warning starts and when it ends. But yeah, real quick, just if you haven't seen the movie and you're just trying to see a review, click off right now because there's gonna be spoilers for the ending and the post-credit scenes of this movie. Here's your chance. All right. So yeah, like I said, I'm not too well versed in like the deep Sonic lore. I'm just not. Even though I played the games as a kid, I that was a long time ago, and I'm not on these like Sonic fan pages or Sonic Discord channels or Reddit posts. Like I'm just not there, and not like in a bad way. It's never been my peak interest of a franchise. It just hasn't been. But I do know Metal Sonic, and I do know Amy Rose, and that is what the post-credit scene was. And I think it's really cool. I get like if there's characters like this that like if I know that means they're like massive. And like I said, this was what I was talking about when like kids were jumping up and down stream my theater. When Metal Sonic showed up, this isn't one post-credit scene. The first post-credit scene is Metal Sonic shows up and then Amy kind of saves Sonic from Metal Sonic and kind of his clones, I guess. Which I didn't even know that there was more than one Metal Sonic. But yeah, Amy comes in and like everything looks great. Metal Sound looks great. Amy looks great. And like I said, the theater was going crazy for that. So I know it's a huge deal. I already knew it was because I do know those characters. But yeah, I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 has already been greenlit. It was greenlit today on opening day, which is really cool. They must have seen the pre-sale numbers and the preview numbers. The fact that this movie is apparently going to outpace Mufasa, which by the way, I might do a review for. I'm not sure. I'm going to see it this weekend and maybe a review. I'm not sure. It might not be worth talking about. But not to hate or anything, I just don't know if we were talking about. But I guess that's what they saw, and they greenlit the fourth movie already. So it's clear that if they hadn't greenlit it, it was already going to be clear that they were going to make a fourth movie with all these teases. But yeah, I mean, you're introducing two huge characters in the Sonic lore, and it's going to be crazy to see how they can kind of up the scale and up the stakes compared to the third movie. And will they be able to execute that? I don't know, but everything I've seen from this franchise so far has proven they can do that and they can make a great movie with more characters. But listen, I mean, you're gonna have five, I guess, you're gonna have Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, Amy. It's probably gonna be the team, and then second post credit scene. Not to jump to that, but Shadow maybe. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they match that scale, like how many characters they're really introducing. So I'm curious to see that. And again, I don't have any theories about this because I just don't know the lore. I know Amy's usually a friendly, and I know she'll probably help fight against Metal Sonic, and I know Metal Sonic's like a huge villain, and he looks really cool. I love the design of him, so that's exciting to me. Just as a fan, I think the design looks cool, and Amy's entrance with like the hood on and takes it off, and it reveals herself, and she looks like designed exactly like she is in the game, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, that was exciting. And like I said, the second post-credit scene is basically confirming that Shadow is alive after the ending because he kind of blows up and I knew he was going to be alive because like why kill him off after one movie? It just would be silly. So Shadow is clearly still alive. I don't know if he was on Earth or not. And again, I don't even want this like don't go in the comments and say, "Oh, it means that Shadow is this from this game from 20 years ago." Like I don't want to see that. I kind of want to go in fresh to the next movie and maybe I'll again getting spoiled in some way, but I I'm not sure if that means that Shadow is on Earth or on like another planet or another galaxy because it did look like that was like a that explosion was like going to another universe. That's kind of what it seemed like to me. Could be way off here, by the way. Just spitballing here, but yeah, not like getting into the technical aspect of these, but both post credit scenes were cool. I did appreciate the fact that both post credit scenes were actually like serious and setting up something. I've kind of hated the trend recently in movies that's been like we're gonna have one post credit scene that's gonna be big setup for the next film, and then another one that's gonna be a comedy that a joke post credit scene that isn't anything. Um, I liked like Deadpool as an example of that, and I liked the Chris Evans one. Like that, maybe that's a bad example, but like I don't really like how we've set the standard of like two post-credit scenes in every movie, and then one of them is going to be serious and going to set up this massive conflict in the future, and the second one is going to be a joke. I just don't like that because it just you're wasting people's time essentially. Because mostly the joke post-credit scenes aren't funny like 90% of the time. But and that's me critiquing Marvel. Like I think it's a problem with Marvel nowadays that they do too many post-credit scenes. But that's why I appreciate this movie because both of them were serious and huge setups for the future. Metal Sonic, Amy, and Shadow's back. Who know if I mean I know Robotnik's probably gonna die, and that was kind of like a sacrifice scene, it seemed, but if they could bring him back after the second movie, I'm sure they could bring him back after this movie. If Jim Carrey calls him and says, I want to come back for Sonic 4, he'll be back and he'll crush it again. So that's exciting. And all our main characters obviously survived the ending, which was no surprise. And yeah, super excited for the future of this franchise with what they're going to do with Metal Sonic and whatever his origins are and Amy and to see how she comes in, kind of similar to how Tails came in at the end of the first one and setting up this new trilogy. I'm assuming it's going to get a new trilogy because these movies just do well critically and commercially. So that's what I'm assuming. And yeah, I'm gonna end the spoilers here. So if you're listening now, we're done with spoiler talk and just kind of put a bow on this. I think that again, I like how we're getting movies like this where it's just sit back and have a fun time with it. Not only is it a fun time though, it's just a great movie in general, and it's emotional. It's got action packed. It's dramatic. It's got tension. It's just everything about it is just so much fun. It's such a fun watch. I'm so glad I got to see this on a big screen, and probably gonna go see it again at some point when I get a chance, especially on a big screen, but also whenever it comes out on digital or whatever. So yeah, go see this movie. It's so much fun. I'm excited for the future of this franchise and Sonic 4 coming out in probably I'll probably have seen Secret Wars by the time that comes out. But maybe they'll make another TV show. They made Knuckles. I didn't really like Knuckles TV show. Discussed for another day, but I didn't really like it. But maybe they can make another TV show from in between 2024 and 2027. You never know. So or more like 2025 because it's almost 2025. But in those 2 years, maybe they can make a TV show before the new movie comes out. So we'll see. But yeah, I think that's about it for my Sonic review. Go see it. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, that's my Sonic review. Let me know in the comments if you did see this movie and what you think of it. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, what were your pros, what were your cons? I personally just didn't have a con for this movie, but I'm sure it's not perfect. I'm sure people have more critiques for it, but I'm just particularly lenient on this franchise because I love it so much. But yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks for all the support in these recent videos. And yeah, I've been Alex Schlerf. This has been the Rogue Eye Entertainment Podcast, and I'll be back sometime soon, either with a Mufasa review or a different review for a movie, or probably Mufasa or a different review, but or if any Marvel news comes out between now and Christmas, or I'll have an end of the year. I think it'll be a podcast. I was going to do it as an article, but I think I'm liking this kind of p- format of podcasts for movie related stuff and then articles for sports related stuff. But I'm going to do a podcast where I'm going to kind of talk through this year in film, and hopefully I'm going to get done all the movies I want to see before the end of the year, and that's what I'm trying to do. But kind of recap this year in film and then go through what my kind of award season nominations would be, and my Oscar nominations would be if I was on the committee or whatever. So that should be exciting. So you'll hear from me soon. It won't be too long before I see another video, before I film another video. So again, thank you so much for watching. Go see Sonic 3, and yeah, take care.